Edo 2022 budget proposal is the crux of the discussion today, and also we quickly take a dive to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill as transmitted by the National Assembly on November 19 to the President, and which awaits the assent of the President. And that will be another thread of discussion we're going to be having. Discussing this with me, starting from my extreme left, I have a legal practitioner and also a doctor, and he is the Bishop, Senior Pastor of Faith Pillars Gospel Center, Dr. Patrick Awosaige. Thanks for joining me, Patrick.
Good morning, Philip, and good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And next to him is an articulate young man. He is a public affairs analyst, a political economist, and he is Ibrahim Momo. Thanks for joining me, Ibrahim.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, distinguished viewers. It's a pleasure to be here.
And of course, I have a very erudite public affairs analyst, a lecturer of the Political Science Department, University of Benin, Neville Obakedo. Thanks for coming.
It's a delight to be here once again this morning. Good morning, viewers and listeners at home.
All right. At this course, we have the Edo 2022 budget proposal as submitted by the governor of Edo State, Governor Obaseki. And there are already issues, ripples, reactions, some picking holes over the budget proposal. Well, it's just a budget proposal, so things can take shape as time goes. But what do you make of the 214.2 billion naira budget proposal as submitted? Patrick.
Thank you very much, Philip. It's wonderful in some ways.
Yeah.
And we look at it critically, and they are all spiced up with aspirations, which could become realities in other ways. And I understand the plight of those agitating and trying to raise doors and ask questions. That's what's all this for? We had a 5-year, arrangement of 25 billion bonds and all of that. Money is expended and nobody saying anything about it, and a whole lot of talk back and forth. In as much as we know the governor is saddled with the said responsibility, people also could have their word in everything, because the state belongs to all of us. But again, looking at it from that angle of what has been done, we may say, well, to a great extent, we've not seen so much in comparison to what have been budgeted for ab initio. Talked about the education, the primary school and all of that. We all know the true pictures of things on ground. And now coming back to what it is now, it's more of, aspirations, like I said. Yes. And these aspirations could become reality.
Yeah, just like you call them aspirations. Let's look at the capital expenditure. That is gulping 118 billion naira. And of course, we have the recurrent at 95.9 billion naira. Well, this is not what a lot of people would say, well, it's not laudable, because we have a huge amount, for capital projects. Don't you think this is quite what will transform and become a budget that will bring about growth in Edo State? Ibrahim.
Well, thank you very much. For me, there's no sense in having a lopsided budget in favor of recurrent expenditure. So for that level, at least at the surface level, we give the government or the governor a thumbs up, because it is not the consumables, it is not the emoluments, it's not the invisible expenditure, the recurrent expenditure that make a difference in the life of the citizen. It is those capital projects. In a sense, we call it the preconditions to take off. You have to have infrastructure in place for there to be, which will form as an enabler for development. So, in a sense, if you look at the country across board, and even at the federal level, we don't have a situation whereby more than 50% is going to capital expenditure. But that is how far the good things or the good story is. If there's anything, we are not confident that I, Ibrahim Momo, have not seen any thing to show that this current administration, at least in the second term, is interested in, emplacing or putting in place critical infrastructure, which will serve as the bedrock or the linchpin.
But you said just now that it's laudable looking at the surface.
Yeah.
So shouldn't that give us an optimistic perspective about how the whole activities will be like when it's being implemented?
You see, we need to see the breakdown of those capital expenditures. These are grand heads, not even sub heads. These are just in figurative terms. These are just allocations. One, you need to see what particular infrastructure developments are those funds 118 billion, which is massive, have been put into. You have to see that. There's this concept of stomach infrastructure.
Okay, but the budget for 2021 that got 161 billion, that was shown as 161. The implementation of it, isn't that enough reason for you to be optimistic that this will also be of a better
budget implementation?
Yes.
That is giving me cause for concern. That's right. That 2022, we hope it will not be the same.
Oh, you have issues with the previous budget?
It is the current situation of things regarding the infrastructural deficits. When we could argue that, well, there was the COVID-19 and its after effect, aftershock. But a budget of 161, and the government will pat itself on its back to say that, well, we achieved excellent implementation level. But when you come to the physical examination of the facts as it is, there's nothing much. I am an incurable optimist. I hope that the government can turn a leaf, and actually let people enjoy what they call in Nigeria the dividends of democracy. Not what they call the stomach infrastructure. Because you give a man a fish today, tomorrow he's still hungry. But you put the preconditions, you put the infrastructure in place that will ensure that individuals who want to excel on their own can do that. Those who manage to buy a car can have good roads, those to ply, those who cannot afford to take their children to good schools abroad or in other places, private schools, they can afford to get quality education with the right physical environment.
Okay.
People are not afraid at night. Because I came from Auchi. I traveled to Auchi and back on Saturday. When I got into Benin, right from the bypass, it was all darkness on Saturday. Today is Tuesday, 3 days ago. It was all darkness up until when I got far into Bo.
Okay, so let's be optimistic that there's what the appropriation bill will really fix when it's passed into law. But there's this aspect where some are also criticizing this budget proposal, Neville, where they said that the 5-year, 25 billion naira, bond that the government said it closed, should be also talked about, that there was no reflection of it even in the current appropriation bill. What do you make of this alongside other issues you may have with the budget proposal?
First and foremost, budget as it is the life wire of any government that is ready to discharge its responsibility of providing welfare and security for the citizens.
Yeah.
And so the budget proposal as it were is a document, a fiscal document that is telling the citizenry what the government intends to do or not to do, because what the government did not capture in the budget is actually what the government is not ready to do. And so everywhere, the 3 levels of government, local government, state government and federal government, there is usually a budget. Now, when we look at budgeting in Nigeria, you discover that budgeting undergoes a process, and that process has to do with initiating the issues that are captured in the budget proposal, or what we call appropriation bill. And then during that process, ministries and departments and agencies of government will now bring to the desk of the governor in this context, because we are talking about Edo State budget, what they need to, the services they need to render to the people. This is what the governor will now aggregate, and the projected cost, which is subject to ratification or approval by the assembly before the governor will now assent to the bill to make it a law. Now, we have a problem. And what is the problem? The problem is that we have an unattentive and very docile public, and even very weak opposition.
In Edo State?
In Nigeria, not only Edo State, in Nigeria.
Okay.
But because we are talking about Edo State, we talk about Edo State just now. When a governor, in this context, Governor Godwin Obaseki presents a budget proposal, that is his constitutional function he has performed, putting it before the House of Assembly.
Yeah.
This is what we tend to do. And it is going to undergo a period of refinement, a period of reading,
And debate.
a period of debate, committees and the rest of them, and a period of public hearing.
Where they have to tear the proposal apart.
Yes,
and
where
fix it.
the opposition, in this case,
Yeah.
the All Progressives Congress, supposed to come and catapult to their binary opposites what the governor has put in the budget. Organizing a press conference or making a statement about a budget proposal that has not been discussed, that has not even, the process of passing it to law has not even commenced officially, to make such statement about this and that is like putting the cart before the horse. And to me, it is just armchair criticism, because for you to be active and to be an opposition that the government in power with dread, you must have facts that you use to dazzle the government. For example, when you are talking about bonds, you have not called the government, you have not called the governor and his administration to come and give a brief about budget implementation of 2021. You are talking of the proposal that he has brought. Set agenda for government and let government know that government is going to be on its toes, because there is a very vigilant and watchful opposition that is looking at what the government is doing, what government said in the budget that the government has not done. So when you talk about governor, this one, the budget is not realistic, blah 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 blah, you cannot say the budget is not realistic, because this is just a document that is not yet a law, and it has not undergone the process. That is one part. On another part, if the budget is now passed into law, or even before it is passed into law, the commissioner for finance or economic planning of the state supposed to give what we call budget breakdown, so that if the governor is saying, for example, because I tried to scribble some things down here, if the governor is saying we are going to realize, we are suspecting to realize 50.2 billion naira in 2022, what homework have you done as opposition to say no, you can realize more than that?
Okay.
Yes, the opposition failed to do so. That's why I regard their criticism about the budget proposal as armchair theorizing or armchair criticism. Look at it. The governor is saying that they are going to get grant of 11.6 billion.
Okay.
Grants from where? Ask the governor.
Okay.
Go and find out where government have been getting grants, because APC was the government before. Where were they getting grants? Because this budget is just a template. Next year, the same budget will still come. The figures will be removed.
So what I say that there should be a forum for this?
Yes. What I'm saying is that those who want to criticize the budget that the governor has presented, they should wait for the breakdown. They should take the budget of the previous year and the previous year to now put them down and analyze and compare them before they cannot say, the governor, you went wrong here or you did not go wrong here. Right now, what they have done is just nonsensical.
Thank you very much. Let's look at what is expected from the State House of Assembly. It has been submitted, and like what Neville Obakedo said, a lot is expected to be done in this direction. People are saying, or some are saying, or the opposition is saying, that there are duplication of projects, in that proposal. They are being padded. So what should the State House of Assembly do in this case?
Well, like he has rightly posited that I'm not in now with the last word, that what they have done is that what he said. But again,
He said what they have done is baseless.
it's not baseless, but let's leave that. We keep that away. But what I'm trying to say here, he has rightly said it all to a great extent. You see, when you are criticizing, you should criticize well.
Yeah, with facts.
With facts and figures. We should. Now, these are really his constitutional duty, and it lies on us, indigents and citizens, to do the needful. Like the House of Assembly on their own part, like, you know, I don't really see, I see so much of romance and closeness, because, you know, talking about Montesquieu's principle of separation of power, there was so much reception, and it's like we're one and the same.
Okay, so it's like they appear to be like a rubber stamp to the executive.
Of sorts. That is what I am not too comfortable with. You remember the 8th Assembly and the Sarakis, although it was so, at every interval they're always on the executive.
But should there be contentions? Should there be arguments? Should there be issues for us to know that, they are really separate?
There should be, I'm not saying there should be contentious situation or maybe rancorous in nature. But obviously there should be different views. We elected you to be there to check, you know, and that's why we are sitting back at home.
There should be intelligent debates.
Yes, but unlike prior to now, I don't even know some of them, in fairness. You know, we talk of Pascal Gomez, you talk of, you know, Friday Tula. You heard of, I'm just trying to call names. You know, this is what intrigued some of us. But right now, we seem not to, except for those of us that read so well. You may not understand exactly what is going on. So we really need them to do their jobs, step up their game and do the needful. It's not to just go through the rudiments of activities. Yeah, this is it, the budget is here, and then call them, you come and then take a bow and take some cup of tea and go, we have had you, you know. And that's not what we expect at this time. In as much as we deserve and we expect the best from this administration, we know what this administration, what it costs this administration to come on board. And it costs so much. So for the average man on the street, will be so devastated, disappointed, and bankrupt of so much if this administration fails. I think they owe the citizens a duty to carry out their...
Thank you very much, Dr. Patrick. The appropriation, the budget proposal is Crescent Budget of Renewal, Hope, and Growth. So let's look at the IGRO as anticipated by the governor. And the smiling Ibrahim will be answering that. Let's look at this aspect of the 50.2 billion naira. Neville Obakedo cited that also. But do you see this as greeting admiration of the Edo people, or is far less?
Well, I don't have the facts as to the trend regarding the IGR, Internal Generated Revenue of Government. Because there's so much information that ought to be in public space. Easily accessible, that is being shielded away from the public.
Exactly.
People don't have information. You cannot even make... I doubt even if the House of Assembly has information.
Are you serious?
The kind of House of Assembly we have now, with all due respect to the gentlemen who are currently holding forth there, I doubt if they even have information, because you're not seeing vibrancy. It doesn't have to be rancorous. It doesn't have to be, you know, belligerent. It has to... What you expect is that they have to do the work which they're elected to. There are 3 arms of government. With all due respect, the least harm, because it says it's just implementing, it's supposed to be the executive. But what we see now is that the executive, in most young cases, determines who even becomes the speaker, determines who gets sworn in and who does not. And then you are seeing you know, changes in the leadership of the House, without maybe due process, without even, you know, what you expect of a House of Assembly. If at the basis of even the Constitution we have a defect, you're not going to see much work done. And then we have been shown pictures of the House of Assembly as being renovated. When are we moving there? It's a question you should ask. Is it anticipated in democracy anywhere in the world, including Nigeria, that will have a subsuming of the legislature under the executive? Is there anywhere it is? I repeat, does not have to be confrontational. We had a Saraki of the APC and a Buhari of the PDP, of the APC also. We had a David Mark
Oh, yes.
of the PDP and a Jonathan of the PDP.
Oh, yes.
It was not, they were not, in sync in everything. That is what you expect of the robustness of the House of Assembly. That's not what we are getting.
Okay.
So do not get to the point of the IGR, the Income Generated Revenue.
Yes.
What we are now saying is that those figures ought to be interrogated. The first point of interrogation is having information. I'm doubting if the House of Assembly has that information. The second point to note is that let's assume the figures are correct. What
Don't forget, it's an anticipated figure.
Yes.
The 50.2 billion naira is anticipated.
Yes. What the IGRO means is that is the money those who are living and working in Edo,
Of course, yes.
are paying as tax, either from the formal or informal sector or organized marriage sector. What you are saying is that if the people are paying so much, let's assume it is that amount.
What are they getting back?
What are they getting
In return?
back for that 50.2 billion? As IGRO, what are they getting back? Are you seeing meaningful? Because oftentimes
What they are getting back could be in form of growth, because exactly what the proposal, the budget is being christened after, because exactly what the governor really is looking into that direction. I think we shouldn't be pessimistic in this aspect.
No, it's not pessimism when you establish facts.
Okay.
It's a wake-up call. Rather than being pessimistic, it's a wake-up call. It
Okay.
should be a wake-up call for those who are reasonable. One of the reasons why I can speak, because I think the governor is somebody who is exposed, who is somebody who should understand, global best practice.
Okay.
He's traveled, he has worked in the financial sector of our economy, so he should know. So some of these issues are not criticism, they are not pessimism. They are to point out perhaps there are some areas people are not he's
Okay.
looking at.
All right, thank you. Neville Obakado, do you see the State House of Assembly boosting up the figure or reducing it, or what do you expect from the State House of Assembly?
Well, a lot has been said about the Edo State House of Assembly. I don't want to go into the legality or otherwise of the House of Assembly.
Okay.
But as we speak, there's a House of Assembly. Whether the members are 10, whether they are 7, as the case may be, it's not the issue. The issue is that there's a House of Assembly, and ordinarily, a House of Assembly is a branch of government. That is to say, that is the legislative arm of government that is supposed to make laws that will enhance the betterment of the living condition and the welfare and security of Edo people. And so they should not fail in that responsibility. And as a watchdog, apart from making laws, they are supposed to be a watchdog over the executive arm of government, to see whether, yes, in performing their oversight function as enshrined in the Constitution, to see whether the executive is alive to its responsibility in executing the policies that have been approved for them to execute.
Okay.
Now, let's come back to the issue of welfare and security, which is supposed to be of paramount interest and importance to House of Assembly members, because they are representing constituencies, even though there are some constituencies that are not represented there as a result of the battle that they had in the past. Now, let's take the issue of security, because in Edo State, we have what we call so many ungoverned spaces in Edo State. When I say ungoverned spaces, I'm referring to forest areas where there's no government presence, no form of communication. If anybody is kidnapped or taken there, the person may survive or may not survive, and nobody will get the trace.
That's right.
Ungoverned spaces.
I think that should be the attention.
Yeah, there are
the
also
government.
ungoverned spaces in populated areas, that human beings inhabit in their hundreds or thousands in Edo State here. But those areas are yet ungoverned.
So the budget proposal should
Yes,
be looking into that and how
I want to link it to the budget proposal.
Okay.
When I started by making my contribution to this subject matter, I said the purpose of government is the welfare and security of the people. So any budget presented by this government or subsequent government is geared towards welfare and security of the people.
Yes, of course.
Let's take the issue of security. That's why I'm talking about governed spaces and ungoverned spaces. In the ungoverned spaces, where kidnapping, ritual killings, and all kinds of kamikaze type of crimes are being committed, violent crimes, they are supposed to fall within the security. Let's see how much the government proposed for security here. The government proposed for security here for example, social welfare 5 billion and youth, and we know we have a lot of youth in Edo State, they don't have anything doing. I suggest that the 5 billion is too small, should be increased. House of Assembly members should see how they can put a policy in place, advise the government on how to harness the potentialities of youth in Edo State, so that they can contribute their own quota to the development of this state, and being able to benefit from government. I'm still looking at the security. I'm still looking for the security information. Now, let's talk about the security. What I'm trying to say about the security, whether I'm getting the facts here now or not.
You have a lot. You have a lot there.
The issue is because there is what we call ongoing economic defrauding of the state. Some government spaces, like market areas, you will see that those who control the market outside of government that come and issue tickets, the money they get on a daily or weekly basis is more than what the government realize from their own market. Then that is supposed to fall within internal generated.
Okay, so I think these are areas that the government should be looking into.
What I will even suggest right now is that after presenting the budget, even though the House of Assembly will be debating the budget, the governors should organize what we call town hall meetings.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think we don't have much time to discuss that, but let's quickly look at the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that has been transmitted to the President, of which awaits the President's assent. And the President has between now and 19th of December to either give assent or decline. Now, this is raising question. Now, it seems the President is under pressure and is going out on wide consultations on how to go about the aspect of the direct primary. What do you take? What's your take in all of this as we round off on this?
Well, it's something that should be clear enough. I know the likes of the Sarakis and the 8th Assembly actually tried to put up some stuff then, and it was outrightly, resisted. So I know we all know what we're talking about when we're saying the direct primaries as it stands. When you talk about government ascending to it, or the President doing that.
And the interest of the governors, for instance.
Yes. If you look at it, it's just to make democracy work properly. I think that is the whole essence. We don't have one big man, overseeing so much.
When you say it's to make democracy work properly, are you talking about the direct primary approving of it?
I'm talking about the direct primaries, because if you have a governor having influence over all delegates as it stands, it's to a great extent, they have no, can you fight a governor? It's not possible.
So you are in support of direct primary?
I'm in support of it. So what we are saying, let it go. Yeah, I agree that there will be some hiccups back and forth. The gadgets are not working. Yes, we'll manage and cope with time. And come out
the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, boldly said that the President will not give assent to that. Well, he has his reasons. We Nigerians seem to easily predict the President.
Well, Wike is a joker in saying that. I think so. Respect to him. Because he's not the President. He can't speak for the President. He doesn't even speak for the President, so he can't speak for him.
But what if the President refuses giving assent? That will now confirm what he said.
I think that Wike is speaking from his own enlightened self-interest. He doesn't want the President to sign it. He doesn't want, because the governors are at loggerheads. Now,
or he's seeing the body language of the President. That's why he's acting that way.
He doesn't even see his own body language. The point is this. The electoral amendment, yes, the debates actually have been about direct and indirect primaries. That, people think that it is for the people. In my personal opinion, it is a fight between the governor and other political actors within states.
Okay, so the people seem not to benefit from this fight.
No, I'm saying that the governors have the political structures of their state in their firm grip across board, whether it's APC, PDP, or even the ABGA in Anambra. They have the political structure of the parties within their firm grip, that one. And so indirect primaries takes it away from that individual.
Yes.
But beyond even the direct primaries or indirect primaries, there's the issue of, for me, which is more critical, is the electronic, the regulation of electronic interventions.
Okay.
For example, the smart card reader is not linked to our electoral act. This is the first time it is now going to be part of that.
Okay.
In the case in 2015 election, the governors of Rivers, of Abia, of Taraba, and one other states lost at the tribunal and Court of Appeal.
Okay.
It was only the Supreme Court that reinstated them. The current governors, Darius Ishaku, Ikpeazu, Wike, and a fourth governor, it was the Supreme Court that reinstated them on the ground that the issue, because there was the issue of voting, the accredited voters going by the smart card reader, was the actual voter turnout was much more, significantly more in all these states than the accredited voters. And the governors argued that the smart card readers, successfully now, is not known to law. This is the first time you're not putting it in law. That's the concern. And the third thing is the issue of, whether, because the Electoral Act is not saying that INEC should have decide on its own whether or not it wants to transmit, it wants to allow for electronic voting and electronic transmission of results.
So all of this may suffer if the president refuses to give assent just because of the direct primary that is agitated over.
Which is what I have made off camera, that the National Assembly should have broken this act,
yes,
act into parts, the industrial bill.
So that others won't suffer.
Yeah, so that if a president rejects, if the president chooses to reject the issue of direct primaries, the technological aspects of which is what will keep our election forward.
All right.
Will not suffer.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Well, as we wrap up, what do you make of this, Neville? We seem to be at the crossroad, and the president, we are waiting for him to give assent or decline.
The problem that we are having in our political system today is not a problem of the president or the governor. It's a problem of the structure and the formation of the political parties in Nigeria. You saw what happened in the United States when even members of the Republican Party rose against Donald Trump. They spoke vehemently against him, even though some supported him. Now, it is in Nigeria that a party, A, for example, PDP, will throw up a candidate. I don't know how they throw up the candidate, whether direct primaries, whether indirect, whether a position. They throw up a candidate who will now go and compete with a candidate of APC. And when the candidate wins the election, he is now above the structure of the party that brought him to power. He's above the structure of the party of his constituency, his ward, above that of his local government, above that of his state.
So are you saying that the direct primary will correct it?
The president and commander-in-chief of Nigeria and the leader of the party. So the same thing with the governors.
So this direct primary should correct it, is that what you're saying?
Unless leaders that are elected from political parties, then who are now elected to represent the state, the country, and so on. Unless they are subservient, they are made to dance to the whims and caprices of the structures of their party.
Okay.
This problem of
the big question,
direct or indirect primaries will continue to rear its ugly head.
Okay.
Why? Because a man who is a governor, as rightly observed, a man who is a governor will want to remain relevant, so that even if he is leaving office as governor, he can go to House of, he can go to Senate, or he can be an ambassador, or he can just become a godfather. And when he is not in control because of direct primaries, then he will be having problems.
Let's look at how it's going to tilt to an end, because December 19 is close by.
I believe that the president...
but we don't know if there's going to be a proviso, or like some say that there could be a proviso at the right of first refusal, and that could derail the process of it not becoming law after December 19. We seem to be scared of that, Ibrahim.
Well, I think for me, there are three ways it can play out. One, the president can sign and it becomes a law. Two, he can veto, reject it, and it goes back to the National Assembly either for amendment, or the third thing, for them to override the president.
Okay, what do you make of that?
Let me finish. If he now chooses to hold on to it, which is the fourth one, till December 19, post 2019, it automatically becomes law.
Okay. So I think we just have to wait for that. Patrick.
Exactly, we should.
Thank you very much, Neville Obahedo. Your last words.
My last word is that I appeal to the President and Commander-in-Chief, President Muhammadu Buhari, to sign the electoral amendment bill that is before him to law in the interest of intra-party democracy, where card-carrying members of political parties can determine who becomes their candidate before they go and compete with another party in any general election. Big
thanks, guests, for taking our time to be part of this. And we'll call it a wrap on the conversation, but it's still this morning on ITV. Don't you go away.